Hi everyone that's already here. We'll just wait a couple more seconds for other people to join so they can follow from the start and get ready to go. So let's get started. Hi everyone, I'm Bruno. I'm the Product Director at Pointerpro, and I'm here to present you with some more meaningful insights you could gain from the same assessment data. So we actually released a feature recently that will basically empower you to get more data from your assessments without actually having to do that much other things than you already did. I'm just going to go ahead and quickly head over to the agenda. So basically, we call it aggregate reports. So aggregating data in order to get more insights. So we're going to explain what it is, what you can do with it, what it looks like, maybe some examples. And at the end, we'll have some time for Q&A. If we don't get to your question, don't hesitate to just ask it or send it over to someone at Pointerpro. We'll be sure you'll get a response. So maybe let's start with who's it for. So typically the use case for these kind of things is managers and HR professionals, and just people that want to have a deeper insight into their organizational performance, or basically anything that could help with decision making. But in reality, basically anyone could be using this, and it could be useful for all kinds of use cases because it is built to be as flexible as we possibly can. Don't feel excluded if you don't fit the standard profile here. You've probably heard of the 3 A's of Pointerpro, and the mandatory slide is here again. But basically what we've added is yet another A, which isn't officially there, but I mean, we are going to aggregate reports and aggregate data in order to kind of improve your advice. So it's going to empower your PDF reports, and it's going to give you deeper insights. Basically, what people have been doing in the past is making simple reports, which we kind of define as you have one response and it generates one report, and you could be adding some benchmark data in that because our tool always supported that, but it's still kind of limiting. So with aggregate reports, you could use multiple responses for the same questionnaire and jam those all into one report. Based on the logic you put around those formulas that you'll be using, you should be able to get more insights into how groups think within a company, for example. And obviously, it's still possible to add benchmark data in there as well. So it's all extra. Now we've split up our reports into 3 types. So we always used to have the individual reports. That's what you're used to. One response means one report. But we've added the concept of a group report, which is basically the averages for an entire company, and individual versus group reports, which is typically something where you want to compare yourself to the rest of the company or something like that. So these have been added. And we have basically made it as simple as that to select them in the tool. So it's basically going to ask you when you're creating a report, which one do you want? Because based on that choice, we'll be offering you different sets of variables in the report to make sure that you are able to get the right data out. And yeah, it comes down to this. Basically, you have your one questionnaire and you are still able to make an individual report that they can download at the end of the questionnaire or not, doesn't matter. And with the same responses, you are able to aggregate that data and pull a group report for a company that just says, hey, you're doing great. Or an individual versus group report where you could say, this person is feeling unhappy at the workplace, but the rest of the company seems to be feeling quite well, in an individual versus group report. And yeah, there's no extra information that you need to ask people to get that. And it comes down to getting more and more data into that one report. And we've already had this toggle to use more than just the one response, but it's basically being used to load benchmarking data. But we'll basically be doing that and taking the full set of data and filtering it to make sure you use the right set of data to get multiple variables that basically can be used for different things. So obviously you'll be only using your data. If you're on a higher plan, like a distributor plan, and you have multiple accounts underneath in your organization, each of them will only be limited to seeing their own gathered responses. So there's no risk of looking over the wall. And we already had the formula filters. So every formula you can give a filter, and for that specific formula, it's going to only take responses that match the criteria of that formula. But it's baked into the questionnaire. So it's basically the same every single time you do the report. You can't change it for a different company. You would basically have to make a copy of the entire questionnaire and split it up. So to counteract that, we've added the report filter, which is the new thing with the aggregate reports, where you basically also are able to add a filter at the time when you're downloading the report. And all of these work in tandem. So you actually have all of these filters active at the same time. So you could basically have a formula filter that says, I need this formula to only apply to people that are more junior in their role. And you can have a report filter that says it's for company A. And that way, that formula is actually going to be juniors for company A. And you could have the same thing for seniors at company A, and you could do the same thing for company B and C. And that way, you could basically do a lot of crazy things, because you will have a lot more data and a lot more insights that you are able to share in your reports. Now, I'm not going to spoil too much fun, but we're also working on very nice updates regarding the formula filters, in which you will soon be able to actually do even more with even less formulas. So we're automating and streamlining the process of how that works. But I'll leave it up to one of my colleagues to bring you the pleasure of explaining that when we get there. Now, obviously, you want to have the formulas in your questionnaire. And now we're getting a little bit more into how do you set this thing up. So people that know the tool might have seen this screen in the past. And you'll see not that much has changed. So the main part that I kind of want to focus your attention on is the two orange toggles that have been enabled, and it might be a little bit too small to read, but basically the first one is used to activate this formula for multiple responses. So then it's basically going to take the entire set of data, and it's going to allow you to add that formula filter at the bottom. So that's the thing in the gray box there. Which is what we already had, but the second one that's enabled is allowing you to set that filter that you can set when you're downloading the report, and both of them will work in tandem. So if you leave that second toggle disabled, you would still be able to use benchmark data. If you say no, this is, for example, I want to filter this on company level, for example, when I'm downloading the report, then you just toggle it on, and this formula will also take that filter into account. It's basically as simple as that to set it up. So as for your questionnaire, not that much has to change, and you would basically have a lot more flexibility in the future. Let's maybe jump over to the report builder then, because that's basically everything you need to do in a questionnaire. I will highlight that this has been built specifically for the renewed report builder. So if you're not already using it, I strongly recommend switching over to it, because the design capabilities are way more advanced than we had with the old one. And it's also a way nicer interface and way more powerful to use. And let's just quickly see. Yeah, obviously to get those pieces of information into your report, we'll be using the variables that we all know and love. If you're not aware on how to get to those variables, if it's in the text widget, it's that little X between the curly brackets, and it opens up our brand new designed variable selector, in which you can basically, for all your formulas that we just created in the questionnaire, you can find them. They're grouped into 3 different tabs there. So if they're using a filter or they're not using a filter, you can find them in the appropriate tab, and you can basically use all of these formulas anywhere in the report. So you can use them as text in a chart, in a KPI widget, wherever you want. And it's also important to note that it automatically calculates averages and the minimum and the maximum and stuff like that, like standard deviation even. So there's no need to worry about that when you're calculating your formulas. You're just supposed to be able to calculate the total, and then the actual aggregation, like the average or the sum, or that stuff is basically done automatically for you. And then we've made this really nice report, and we've got a lot of fancy variables in there. Obviously, you want to download it. One way to do it is through the dashboard. So you've got this little download button there at the top, from which you can open this menu, and we've added different sections for basically all of the types of reports. The individual versus group is the one that I'll be showing in this presentation, just because it basically contains all of the components that all the other ones use as well. So if you understand how this one works, the other ones are going to be as simple as can be. So basically, you just select it. You select your you've opened the dashboard for a specific questionnaire. So you select one of the reports that's attached to that questionnaire, and then you can set your filters. You would select an individual. So in the case of how does someone compare to the company, you could use the email address, for example. And then you would be able to select a group below as well, just to highlight which are the people that are around this individual that I want to use as a group. I've used pretty simple formula filters and report filters here, but you can see the orange plus sign, so you can make really advanced, like and or statements to basically get really nitty-gritty with your data. So at the end, you just hit the download button and it starts generating, and I guess in about 10 to 15 seconds you should have your report. That's about as easy as we can make it. Now, this is one way to do it. Another way to do it is from the responses tab, and it's in the background there. It's the third tab there that's been selected. It's also in the dashboard, by the way. And you have on the right behind the pop-up, you see this little download button. So from there, you can just use individual responses and hit download from there. If you know it's specifically this person's response that I want to have the download for. And it's going to basically ask you to select a group if it's an individual versus group report. If it's an individual report, it won't ask anything and it just downloads. And I don't know how observant you all are, but you can maybe see in the background that I've selected the top 3 reports with a check box there at the beginning. And there's a download report PDFs as well. So basically you can select multiples and then configure one group, and it's going to download the report for these 3 people as individual, but the group is going to be the same for all of them. But that way you could do the same thing for a company in one go without having to download all of them individually. So bonus feature is predefined filters. So I don't know if you've noticed, but in the past screenshots, there's this little drop-down menu. Maybe let me show you there. Right above the gray box, there's this little hidden drop-down box. And basically, you would be able to make predefined filters in advance. So you can basically recycle them and reuse them every single time if those are things that you yeah, you use on a regular basis, you don't have to start configuring the entire thing again and again and again. So you could have how many filters you want, and then you can just select them from the drop-down box instead of configuring it to help save you some time. Now, this is all fun, but maybe something more tangible is more helpful. Well, basically, it could look something like this as a report. So you could, and in this case, I just made something up really quickly. So don't shoot me for saying something stupid here. But in this report, we basically I evaluated John compared to the others in the company. So John is just one of those people that responded, and in the second column, you see I've got his input, so his specific response to the questionnaire. The third column is the aggregation of all juniors inside of that same company, and if John was a junior, he's in there as well. And then the last column there is the seniors. And it basically translates exactly the same way. If you put it into a chart, you just take those variables and you put them where you need them to be. So these are things that now are possible in a matter of minutes if you're aware of how it works, and once you've tried it out, it basically it's almost too easy. Now, potential use cases and examples. People like it when it becomes tangible and they hear the same thing that they have in their mind. The thing is, a lot of people have different terminologies for the same thing. We have the concept of team reports, group reports, but basically any kind of group that you want. So even if you have a questionnaire that has no specific grouping, but you want a report so you can have segmented data later on, and you just want to configure the filter later on, you could do that. And you could basically filter on a specific answer and just say, give me an aggregate report for all people that said A to question 27. That works perfectly. So team report, group reports, all of those work as aggregate data, just using averages, summations, the minimum, the maximum, but no real specific data. That's basically all possible. 360 reports, kind of a difficult term. People like to use it differently, but basically we mean something where one person is being evaluated or assessed by a number of people around them. And ideally, well, that's where the name 360 came from, like a manager, which is on top of, above them hierarchically, then peers, direct reports, and a self-evaluation. So basically you have a full view of this one person. That's an individual versus group report for us. And now it's just standard to basically build something like this. Just make sure you have the right formulas and you're good to go. And then obviously benchmarking reports. It's not because of this feature that there are any less benchmarking features in there. So you could use in one single report, you could have a single user's response, several segmented groups as well, and benchmarking data of the entire set of responses you've collected from a professional point of view. So even from other companies and other groups as well. All of that is possible. And it could look whatever way you like it. So the one on the right is one that I used to test the entire tool, and it's a very simple example without too much explanation of a 360. So someone gave themselves some scores, their manager gave them some scores, several peers gave them scores, and they got aggregated. Then we got a full average as well. We put all of that in charts. I've used column charts quite a lot, but a very cool idea would be spider charts, where you could just have one line being the minimum, one line being the maximum, and you would be floating somewhere in the middle. That would be pretty easy to set up. And how it looks like, or what it looks like, is basically up to you. Now, we are very happy by the way, if you have a specific use case, that just talk to us about it, and we can think along with you. Now, coming back to the 3 A's of the 3 official A's of Pointerpro, we recently launched the distributor plan, and obviously you might be asking, like, okay, how do I get access to this feature? So we've added it as an add-on for the reporter plan, because in all fairness, not all people want to use these kind of advanced reports, and we don't want to ramp up the price for no reason. But it is there if you're ready to take your reports to the next level and take your business to the next level. If you are already on the distributor plan, then, or if you're looking towards the distributor plan, you don't have to worry, because it's just included, and you can basically start with it immediately. Then I think we are already at the Q&A part. So we've went quite quickly through it. I think the moral of the story is we are here to help you figure out your use case and how our tool could basically solve it. But also we are quite aware that setting these questionnaires and reports up, it can take quite a long time and can be quite difficult at times. So I also wanted to mention that we have a professional services team that is ready to help you set these up for you, or just do it completely for you, which is something that you should definitely talk to someone, one of our experts, for, to see if that makes sense, or if that's something you're looking into. Also, again, wanted to mention this recording is going on YouTube as well, so you can look back later. But if there's any questions, I would say type them in the chat, and I will try and pick out a few. If I don't manage to get to your question, then don't worry, I'll send you an email afterwards. There's a tab. Oh, there's a questions tab. Oh, there we go. We already have a few. Okay, I'm just going to pick them from the top here. Is there a link on the website to see the differences between the report and distribution levels? Yeah, so I see Jeffrey's already attacking that. Yeah, so on our pricing page, you should see the differences, and there should be a comparison somewhere, compare features on there as well. I'd like to show how many different groups, teams have answered a particular question. Marketing averages. How can you do this? So basically, 𝘼𝙜𝙜𝙧𝙚𝙬, it basically means that you have several formulas and you put a filter on every formula. So one filter would be, or one formula would be all of the questions pertaining to marketing, or that you basically want to sum for marketing. You add a formula filter for marketing, and then that formula from that moment on is going to only show things that marketing responded. And that way you could basically have a report, and you use the formula that you used with the filter for marketing in one column, and the formula for product development in a different column. So that's where they come into play. But I assume we're going to have a call in the near future anyway, so I'll show you at that time. I see Evan is here as well. Are we able to edit responses for group reports? Imagine a situation where one response is a typo 100 instead of 10 for a number input. Yeah. So at the moment there is no edit capabilities yet, as to not tamper with the responses. What is possible, and that's the fun part with this filtering technique, is if someone were to answer their entire questionnaire again, either you delete the old response and you use the new one, or you can filter it away and use the new one. But there's no editing capabilities yet. But the request has been noted. Is there functionality to create an email notification and/or questions for a multi-checkbox? Let's say I needed a combination. No, there's at the moment we're not We don't have many extra email notification options on the short-term planning. There is this thing called email templates. I don't know if you've looked into that, Blake, but with email templates, you can send them based on specific conditions. But it could mean that you would have to make quite a few of these conditions in order to cover all the cases that you have. And those email templates can be sent to a variable. So even if it's an email address that you ask, or if it's a static email address, all of that stuff you can do. I see Chris is already replying to some. I've got, can you add and compare an individual to multiple groups? So yeah, well, basically it depends on how you look at it. If multiple groups can be defined using formula filters, so if they're kind of static groups, like for example, the sales team, the marketing team, the product team, and whatever, then that's perfectly possible. Otherwise, if you're meaning I want to compare dynamic company A to dynamic company B, and I want to basically select them at the time of download, both of them, that's not possible yet. So that's a tricky part. However, if you're kind of inventive with the way you set things up and you basically group them together and you have them answer one specific question to determine if they're one of the or the other, you could maybe do it with the tool, but it's a little bit of a workaround. It's not as simple as selecting the download filter. All right, I've got Erika here as well. One issue we've run into when doing aggregate formulas reports is the NA option equaling to 0. Yes, that's an issue that's been locked with the developers, and they are trying to fix it in the short term. So we are looking into that not applicable, the impact of that on formulas as well. I've got a question here as well. Can you stack combined aggregate formula filters, example A, team A, all managers in the 360? Yeah, so basically, formula filters, you could do and or expressions as much as you want. So you can make one formula that's really expensive. And in most cases, that would be the way that you just make another formula next to it and have that in a slightly different filter in case that you want it to be dynamic. But it also stacks with the filter that you set when you download. So it's using both filters at the same time. The feature that I was hinting about is actually going to help add another layer of filters and add another layer of flexibility here in order for you to combine those filters more efficiently. So that's basically something that's on the short-term roadmap that should be here by the end of the quarter. I've got another question here from Linda. Can we copy an individual report to base our aggregate report on rather than having to recreate? At the moment, we don't have this feature yet, but we are looking into it. So the reason why we don't have it yet is because for an individual report or a group report, we are offering different variables. So if you were to copy your individual report to a group report, you would have to go through all of the variables because some of them will not be available. Like question 1 response is a variable that is tied to an individual response and not something that's automatically aggregated, because you would have to use the formulas basically there. But we are looking into it, into how we can make it more user-friendly, that when you convert it, that it at least offers you some indication of what you need to do to go from point A to point B without having to test multiple times and go through all of the errors. Okay, I see Monique had issues connecting, but I don't know if she's aware, but we'll send you the link to the YouTube video when it's uploaded. So you don't have to miss a thing. And obviously, if there's questions, then you can still reach us using this email address or any of the Pointerpro experts that you already know. So yes, Imo, everything will be available as well. Let's quickly go into chat if there's more questions here. Yeah, so, okay, I think, can you send me the link as well? Yeah, Leo, no problem. We we'll make sure you get it. All right. I'm checking if we have any more questions coming in. At the top. Okay, so I see that. Oh, they're at the top here. Yes, longer surveys. So Martin asks if I have a longer survey and want people to pause and come back later, but I can't send them the email, the invitation via email using the unique ID. Is there a workaround to allow them to resume later? I'm gonna have to look into that one, Martin. I think, yeah, it's mostly tied to unique IDs in order for us to follow through. And I don't think there's a way around that. But there might be something that I'm not aware of. So we'll be sure to get back to you on that one. I've got Susan here. I just thought it would be useful to see the tool being used rather than seeing static screens. Don't worry, Susan. We'll be sure to reach out to you and give you a live demo and maybe explain a little bit more in detail of how it would work in your specific case. But basically the screens I showed, or basically all the screens that you pass to get there. Okay. Seeing here if I can. I see Charlie here with a 360 report. Can the assist individual nominate their 360 responders as part of the assessment, or do they need to provide them to us via other means? So the fun thing is there's a number of ways to set up these 360 reports. One way is that you could have them fill in email addresses, for example, and they get sent to a separate questionnaire where they basically register it. Or they basically register to become an observer in that 360, and it basically creates contact and sends them the link to take the question to take the 360 for that one person. So those are options that can be explored. It's not something that's ready out of the box where you can just say I want to make a 360 and it automatically does all of that stuff, because we have quite a number of use cases where people prefer to do it differently. But that's something we've done in the past and that we've seen clients do as well. Caitlin asking, is there a link? I see that we already had that one. I see at the top if there's new ones. No. Any other questions? Well, regardless, the moral of the story is you know how to reach us. The email address there is available. You can reach out to anyone, and basically we are able to help you figure out how your use case fits into our into our tool, and if it doesn't work, what alternatives you could consider. I'm checking here because I get a site that I'm missing something on the chat, but I can't really find it here. So Susan, question if there's a forum where users can reach out to each other. No, at the moment we don't have something like that. We've been looking into it, but at the moment we don't have like a collaborative thing. We could, if you are looking for a specific use case, see if there's other people, other clients of ours that we could maybe bring you in contact with. So maybe if you reach out, or I assume somebody will already have reached out to you or will do so in a short time. We can see if that's something we can help you with. Yeah, indeed. Like a forum on Reddit or Discord or something is something we could look into. All right, then I think we can call it a day. Thank you all for joining. If there's any more questions, anything we can help you with, reach out to us. And hope to talk to you soon again. All right, bye everyone.